Hello, in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use a form and add form elements to a form. We start with the form tag. As you know, form is a block level element, and it is a container. It contains many form elements. The attributes we can add to the form, one was action, which specifies where to send this information. In this case, I want to send it to echo.php, and the other one is method, which can be either post or get, right? By default, if I do not put the method, then it's going to be get, and if I do not specify the action, the default is going to be the same file that this form is in it. This is the format I'm going to use within this form. So I will have a label tag, which allows me to add a label to any form element, and I will have an input box. The good thing about the input is it's like a magic tag. You can do a lot of things with this tag, except there are different types that you have to add, right? So I'm just going to go and copy this because I'm going to use this over and over. So in order to attach the label to the input box, I need to use the for attribute. In this case, I will call it input1, right? This value here must matches the ID of the element you want to attach this label to. So I just simply go ahead and say ID input1, right? Also, one other thing is you got to specify what type of element you want. So in this case, I want a text box because I want the user to type a value in there, right? So just type text. Now remember, whenever you submit this form, the input box is the parameters that you pass to the server. So you must have a name for this input box, so it can be associated with the value that user types into input box and sent to the server side. So we always have to have a name if we want to send this information to the server. So right now, what I did is I just create the label, and the only thing is I have to add something for the label. So I will call it input1 in this case. It's not necessary to be same this and this, right? It can be anything you want as long as it represents or tells the user what to enter. So just go ahead, refresh this page, and as you can see, this is my input and this is the input box. There are a few other ways of doing this as well. For instance, I'll go ahead and create this for input2. Now I can specify certain things for this. So I can say size is equal number of characters, or the size of the box. So if I go here right now, and let me just put a BR here so it goes to the next line, stick in a line, we can see them better. Here you go. So of course I have to add a label for the second one as well, input2, right? So as you can see, this is the second input, right? And this is the first input. I specify the size. When you specify the size, it shows you the size that you add. As you can see, it's not matching the actual size. It's just makes it smaller for you, but it does not restrict the number of characters you can add. If in case you want to do that, simply you can use another attribute called max length, which allows you to specify what is the maximum number of characters you want the user to be able to enter to this box. So if I go here, regardless of how many times I press the key after 3 characters, it will not let me add that. There is also another attributes that I'm interested to share these attributes with you too. One is called disabled. Now with disabled attribute, what happened is when you go to the form, you actually you see these gray out boxes and you're not able to edit it because it's not editable, right? So one other thing about disable is this. Let me go ahead and create an input box of type submit, right? So if I go ahead and refresh this page right now and submit, right? Well, actually you realize what happened, right? I misspelled submit and instead gives me a text box, because by default the type of an input box is text, meaning even if you don't specify the type attribute, it still gives you a text box. So submit, go back to the form, and I just go ahead and type something here. Now what happened here is actually it does not send the parameter called input1 to the server. Let me go ahead and change the disable with the read only, right? Let's see what happened now. So I go ahead and let me specify some value for this, or I can do it later. Let me just go ahead and add this 1 2 3. As you can see, input 1 is passed. Yes, there is no value because I didn't enter anything, and input 2 is passed as well too. So the big difference between disabled and read only is disabled, the name and the value of this input box will not be passed to the server, but read only will be, right? With read only or disable, I can specify some default value as well. So I can simply go here and say this is input 1, for instance, right? So if I go back to this page and refresh this and add some value here, you can see the read, this is input 1 is there, and I cannot change it because it is only. So if I go, and you will see when it's submitted, it's passed to the server as well. With disabled, if I do the same thing, I go back, refresh, you can see it is disabled, but data is there. I submit the form, the input 1 is not passed. I can add the value for the submit button as well. I can go ahead and say value is equal submit the form now, for instance. And if I go back and refresh the page, you will see the label of this has been changed as well. There are different type of input we can use here as well. I can go and type input type equal radio, right? With the radio button, if I just show you here before I continue with this, so this is what you get for radio button, right? Of course, you can have a label, you can have name as well. You must have a name, otherwise it will not be passed to the server, right? So I would say R1, and you have to specify a value, because when this is select, if I do not add the value, let's see what happened. So just refresh this, select, and submit. And as you can see, for R1, the value is on, right? So if you select this, it's going to be on. There is no off, because whenever you select, the on will be passed. But if you want something rather than on, you just simply go ahead and say value Visa, for instance. So the user has selected the Visa card, right? So if I go here, refresh this, select this, then you can see R1 is Visa. One thing about the radio button is if I have them, 3 of them, and I call them differently, right? So just go here, refresh this page. One of the things with the radio button is you should not be able to select more than one, right? But if you give a same name to all of them, then that is what happened. You group them together if you have the same name, so one can be selected. But if you give a different name to each, then all of them can be selected. So in this case, if I want to do this, I would say Visa, MasterCard, and Amex, right? I'll give them all the same name, and definitely only one can be selected at any given time. And when I submit the form, you can see the value is Visa. Of course, you can have a label for these guys. So we can go label for let's say Visa, and so I go here and I will add ID equal Visa, right? So if I go back here, refresh the page, you can simply see Visa. So you can add the label to either of them, and you will have the label as well. There is another input type I want to talk about, and that is checkboxes, right? For the checkboxes, again, if you want to pass the value of the checkbox, you must have a name. I'll call it check1, and you must have a value as well. I'll call it check1 or remember me. Remember those boxes, then remember me, and most places you go is next to your username or on the form that does login. So if I go here, as you can see, this box is there. I pass this information, ch1 is passed as well. So that's for the input box of the input text, radio, and the checkbox. We have another one I want to talk about. We have many of them. I just go through another one. I can have input type equal password. Now I'll give a name equal password, right? And definitely I will create a label for this, for password, password. But actually I can do it differently this time. Like for this one I can use the attribute called placeholder and put the label into that placeholder. This is an interesting feature added in HTML5. Let me just go ahead and refresh this. So as you can see, password is there, right? As soon as I start type, you don't see the label. If you take out the values, you will see the label again, right? Now, one thing about the password is as I type, you cannot see what I'm typing, right? You gotta remember this is just masking the character. It does not do any encryption. There is no encryption and the information will still be passed through the clear text. So if I go here, as you can see, password is equal password. That is why get method is not good to be used for a submit button, right? And the other tag that we can use here are different type of buttons. So I can go and say input type is equal reset, right? Or I can have another one called input type equal button, right? So if I go back here, let me just put an HR here to separate these guys so you can see them better. So I go back and refresh my page. And here is. So I have submit button, I have reset button, I have a button that has no label. Of course, if I want to have a label on this, I just have to go use the value attribute, right? Value, click here. Okay. So if I go back here, you can see value click is there. Now, there are a few other options I want to talk about it. Like one of them is if I want to pre-select one of these radio buttons, I can just go and say checked as an attribute inside the tag itself. So if I go back and refresh my page, you see the middle one is selected, right? So now, if I go and select another one, put some value in here, type this one here, and click on reset, I want you to see what happens. It actually reset, put the form into its initial state, or it's very similar to when you refresh the page. So all the value that you have entered is gone, and it will look the same as it was the first time you load the page. Button mostly is used to trigger an event. For instance, in JavaScript, I can go ahead and say on click alert 123 or what is up. And now if I go back here, refresh my page, click on this button, I'll get this dialog box, right? Other than that, button cannot submit a form. There are times that you want to pass certain information to the server, but you don't need any user entry. So in order to pass a parameter that doesn't require user to be involved with this, I use another input type. The input type is hidden, so meaning it will not be shown to the user unless they view the source. Of course, it needs a name. I call it hidden, or I will call it username, and it has to have a value because user cannot provide you with the value. You have to pass the value. This is what you want to do, right? So I will call user 123, right? So now if I go back here, refresh this page, submit some information, and then you should be able to see the username as username user123. So hidden, it doesn't need user doesn't need to be involved to entering a value. You can send a value to the server whenever you need, as long as you drop one of those hidden input box into your form. Now I'm going to create the PHP script that actually can echo all these values, a simple one. So I'll go ahead, create a new PHP file. I'll call it the F1, actually echo.php. That was what is in the action, right? Since multiple parameters are passed, simply use a for each loop. This command allows me to loop through all the parameters that are coming in. I will use the get method in this case, right? As param value. And I'll simply go ahead and print this echo name equal value, and I'll put BR, so each of them will be in a separate line. Okay, so let's go back here. I refresh this page. Simply you can see all the parameters that I'm passing there. So go here, check the checkbox, the password, and you can see all these information are from the parameter list. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next video, I'll go through some other elements and I will introduce you to as well. Have a good day.